Hello, Niladri. I'm audible.
Yes, I can hear you, Rohan.
Okay, fine.
Hi, folks.
Hi everyone.
Hey, hi everyone.
Am I audible?
Yeah, Theo.
Oh, I can't hear anything.
Hello, Tiago. Can you hear us?
Keep having problems on Firefox and Zoom.
Okay, I think we ought to get started. Just going to check if Tiago can hear me. Do you hear me, Tiago? Hmm. Let's give Tiago another minute, I suppose. Can't hear you, Tiago, by the way. I see you're unmuted. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Uh, this is what is these are the things that I see that are significant since the last time we met on this call. One is that we have had this contribution from JR42. It's a big one. It's for the Mayastore interrupt mode feature. And as we know, Mayastore uses consistently polls, and that consumes CPU resource. And you can't really run Mayastore in any other way. You can't switch off polling, otherwise Mayastore doesn't work with interrupt mode how you would expect kernel space IO drivers to work. So JR42 is adding upstream SPDK interrupt mode support for Mayastore. And with this change, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Abhinandan and Tiago, who are reviewing the PR, we would be able to run Mayastore in interrupt mode, and we will not be hogging CPU as Mayastore usually does. I suppose the interrupt mode is less performant than the polling based Mayastore. Apart from that, another bit that's going into all the Helm charts is this global Helm values, global Helm values, which, if I recall correctly, is something where you can specify a Helm value with a global prefix on it, and that value would apply to all of the charts which are attached to the OpenEBS chart. What that means is if you set the image pull policy on the OpenEBS umbrella chart, you set it for ZFS local PV, you set it for host path local PV, and you also set it for Mayastore. And whatever else you see on that chart, it usually works with it. There are a few which don't work with it, and those are not directly dependencies. Those are optional dependencies. And when I say some of those things, I mean things like Loki and Nats and those things. I think apart from that, we have 4.5 on the horizon. I think we are close to, I suppose, the features that were on the 4.5 milestones on our roadmap. I think we are almost there. So we should be very close to cutting up 4.5 release. I think that covers the general sentiment here in OpenEBS land. I'm just going to go around the room and see if someone has joined us. No, I don't. I see regulars. I don't see someone new on the call. I don't really have much on me. Feel free to take it away if someone has something they would like to share on this call.
Yeah, we can talk about the local PV enhancement that we have been making that are targeted for 4.6 release. For example, in ZFS, we are refactoring the complete logging bits and log propagation. So that was a long-standing issue that was reported. So that will be fixed, and even other local PV issues like on ZFS host path and LVM are being worked upon. So yeah, pretty good contributions coming up on local PVs as well.
I didn't know about that. Could you expand a bit on what do you mean by log propagation on ZFS local PV? What does that?
Yeah, so so the way currently it is like it's very difficult to figure out the reason why something has failed, right? It's not very apparent. So, and the log levels are all like set to only one level. So even if we have k log, but the log levels are just set to one. So we
Oh,
need multiple. Yeah. So the debugging chain is a bit difficult. Also, like from controller to CSI nodes, and so that's why we want to refactor the whole thing, and so that everything it's basically easier to debug, and the logs are
okay. These are
properly programmed.
essentially Go binary arguments which are being set correctly, from what I understand.
Yes, then and in code, better logging. I mean, lower level logging as well to be
Okay,
integrated, so that we can easily get to the point right where it is failing. Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, on hostpath local PV 4.5, we'll see the release of the node deployment mode, which I have seen a number of people excited for. I suppose the direct issue that it solves is the delay in spinning up a new pod, that is the helper pod, to create on or delete a host path volume. With the node deployment mode, you already have a daemon set pod sitting on all of the cluster nodes where you would want host path volumes, and they can, they can do their creation and deletion operations much more readily, and there's no spin up cost. There's no IP assignment cost that you would encounter with a pod spinning up every time a volume is needed. Uh, that's a big one going into host path local PV. Yeah, I think we have also fixed the bit where
I audible now?
yes, you are, Tiago.
Yes,
I'll
cool.
hand
And
it
I
off
can
to
hear
you.
as well.
Yeah.
No, I just
Oh,
have a comment on this with the node deployment. So on hostpath, we're doing the node deployment via a daemon set, although this is not the same as we have on the raw file, right? Because on the raw file we have the CSI using the what's it called? Um,
we are
um,
using
Talking about
CSI
CSI
development.
nodes.
yes, where we run the controller actually on the CSI nodes, right?
Yes.
Right.
What is this mode called again? Um, node deployment. That's it. Yes, node deployment. So this is the node deployment configuration where the controllers actually run on the same
Right.
nodes as the node plugin.
Yeah. That
So
is a
since
very
we're doing
atypical. Yeah, that's right. Yes. Please go ahead. I'm
so
sorry. Yeah.
since we're doing the same thing uh, on the raw file and now on the host path, can't we do the same thing on the ZFS and LVM?
The ZFS and LVM drivers already run. Okay, so if you were to try to address the problem of the pod spin up thing, that's not there with ZFS and LVM. What problem do we actually solve with this change when we, let's say, even if we were to port this design architecture to ZFS and LVM? Uh,
Well,
is
first will be the logging because no longer you will have components, a controller talking to a um, equivalent counterpart for the node plugin on the different node, right? So the
Sure.
controller would live on the node where the workload is being scheduled on.
Right. Okay, so you're saying it's because it's a more monolith centric design, so they stick together more coherently, I suppose, as in the development cycles across these APIs are smoother because they don't have to go through the whole microservices chain that
Yes,
we go through on ZFS and LVM.
yes. To be honest, it almost removes the need for all the CRs that we have, because you're already getting the calls on the correct nodes.
Right. Yeah, I see the benefit there. Yeah. So just to reiterate what Tiago said here. The raw file local PV follows a very atypical CSI driver configuration where both of the controller APIs, as in, let's say, controller publish, controller, as in the create calls, which is a controller centric call. Those capabilities are implemented within the node deployment packaging. Not necessarily they are the same always, as in they are decoupled. The controller responsibilities are decoupled logically from the node uh, plugin, the node responsibility handler. While these are decoupled logically, they do reside in the same packaging inside the same pod for raw file, which you might not always see with many CSI drivers. And that gives you a more streamlined development experience and makes it kind of easy to work through the volume lifecycle end to end on that one package. Yeah. Do we have anything new that we want to talk about? What do you think, Iago? I think we're nearing pool and node deletion.
Yeah, you mean anything new on what, raw file?
No, anything new since last month? Let's for instance, as in, do we have anything that we would like to share with the community on OpenEBS in general? I've covered.
Yes, we do. So, and I think he's on the call. Hi, is it Jeremiah's?
Oh,
Yes,
okay, see,
Jeremiah's.
that's right. Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you. Welcome
Yeah.
to the community meeting.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the things we can share in the library is the interrupt mode that Jeremiah's has been working on for Maya Store. So maybe Jeremiah's, could you maybe talk a little bit about the feature and why you've been working on it for your use case?
And tell us about
Ye-
yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, quick intro. So yeah, my name is Jeremiah's. I'm living in Germany and yeah, used to be a software developer, but somewhere promoted to manager. So I use my free time to still be able to do something, right? And I have a smart home at home, and because of that, I run a Kubernetes cluster with a lot of stuff, all mission critical. Because the light switch doesn't, if the light switch doesn't work, my wife will kill me. And out of that, which is and I used to do, by the way, enterprise scale stuff. So I used to work for Amazon also. So I'm on high traffic, high volume stuff. So that's why I came to OpenEBS, which is I think a little bit too big for my use case, but I used it anyway. And I really liked it to have the redundancy, but for my home lab use case, I hated that I'm wasting 30 watts on energy with the busy polar.
Yes. Yeah.
And at first, I only tuned by pinning one core and reducing the CPU frequency. And then eventually, I had some time to spend and thought, hey, probably won't be hard. Let's fix it. And then I went into the rabbit hole. My first naive approach on doing it the SPDK way. Quickly, I realized, okay, that would take me way more time than I have. So I opted the way Longhorn is doing it, and basically then adjusted the reactor to work in a similar way. That's basically the feature. That's basically it's an hybrid, so it's not full SPDK dynamic mode as you would guess. And by the way, I learned that would also require some tuning on SPDK itself to really make it work. But instead having mostly so interrupt mode with some small wake ups, so like 100 microsecond, something like that, to be tuned. But in the pull request, you can see the benchmarks, etc., and the reasoning behind it. Any questions on this one?
No, I think
Yeah,
we are good. We have
that's all
already
from
discussed
Jeremiah.
most of the
Yeah,
things on
thank
the
you.
PR. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for this, Jeremiah.
So which configuration are you running at home, by the way? Is it 100 microseconds or 1000?
So I did 1000 because I was overly invested on saving energy, but then I realized I cannot saturate my 2.5 gigabits links anymore. So I went to
Oh,
just for this inner freedom to be able to have the performance, even though I don't need it, honestly. Went to the 100, and for I think for the default for OpenEBS should be the 100,
yeah.
and I think it's a much more sensible choice. Only
Yeah.
for
So
eco activists, the other one is the right one.
yeah. So what changes do you think would be necessary if we wanted to follow, for example, the SPDK way?
Oh, I think the biggest one would be, I think, dropping the custom reactor.
Yes.
Yeah, that was obviously too big. So and on SPDK, so depending on the different modes, because also, by the way, I when I started, I didn't have any clue on the details, so I had some past experience with SPDK on tuning with media streaming, but that is half a decade to a decade ago. So I had to also learn a lot. So some of the implementations, so for instance, NVMe OF, the support is different than, for instance, for iSCSI and stuff like that. So it's I was surprised, honestly. I thought that would be a no-brainer on SPDK side, but it's not so trivial.
Yeah, and the reactors is to be honest is a big problem because we cannot benefit from things like the SPDK top, right? Which is could be very useful to debug some issues or just to have an idea of what threads are there and how busy they are. And today we really can't benefit from any of that because of our custom reactors. So we do need some way of getting around that, unfortunately.
I'm curious. So, what was your initial design decision on using the custom reactor?
I'm not sure, to be honest. The person that did that initially is no longer working on the project. I did meet up with him at KubeCon, so maybe I should try and catch up with him and try and figure it out. But I would imagine some of it would be to be able to run the Rust futures, which basically use a similar polling model, right? So maybe that was the reason for it. Although, and I think I've mentioned this on the PR, couldn't we achieve the same thing by kind of flipping it and creating an SPDK poller, and then within that poller we run our futures. But then I'm sure there's probably some nuances there that I don't fully comprehend.
Yeah, I think even worse with me. So I think on theory, on my level of knowledge, I would think that should be possible. Having tried it initially, so I basically broke one thing after another. That's why I opted to stop this.
Yeah, but there might be some funky cases, corner cases. Some of the code that we have, which would run the reactor block, you might have seen that, where we would run some code in the blocking manner. Actually, we found loads of issues with that because when we are running in a callback from SPDK, so we're already in the thread, and then when we try and run the reactor in a blocking way, that would actually mean that the other messages in the SPDK queue would not get called. And then that led to very strange behavior. So we've tried to remove most of the uses of the blocking. So now it's only running within the reactor itself, on initialization, and we run it in the tests, in the cargo tests. So it might be fine. We might not need it. Yeah, I'm not sure. Probably we need to do some initial research and see what happens, see what breaks, and then if nothing breaks, try and discuss that with Jeffrey and see if he likes the idea as well. So the other question I had for you was, so currently, and I think on your tests that you showed us, you're running on ARM. Is that right?
No, this is just my Mac on which I'm coding. So
Oh, okay.
and my cluster is 3 AliExpress mini PCs, for which I haven't bought enough RAM when I had the time to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe in a few years it'll be cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, cool. Because it would be cool to see as well in an ARM, because I think that
So
was one of the use
so
cases that people
yeah,
requested it for.
yeah, I stumbled upon this actually because I didn't even thought about it. I just built it and it worked, and I never cared about it. And then after you asked the question, I saw the issues and that there apparently are some. But yeah, at least for my testing, it worked fine.
Yeah, so we might need to revive that. I think originally it didn't work on ARM. Then there's been a few changes from the community as well. And I think even the SPDKRS build is now, well, the CI, not the build, is running on ARM systems. So probably we need to try and use. So we couldn't use those builders for the MyStar CI because they're very underpowered. But now that we switched to the CNCF CI, and they do have powerful ARM systems, so we should be able to run the MyStar test on ARM, and then also we can build the images on ARM. Initially, we were kind of scared of doing that because if we don't have the ARM systems to test on, then if we expose that and then there's any bugs, it's going to be very hard for us to debug it if we don't have systems. But maybe now that the CNCF has exposed those, we can start doing that. Probably not for 4.5. I think it's a bit too late for that. But maybe this is something that we could take for 4.6, Niladri.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
Would also be handy for interrupt mode with interrupt mode, because if you try to run this on Raspberry as is, so 4.4, that's not a fun experience, I guess.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and I think that's where interrupt mode is really going to help in on these, let's say, like edge or lower powered systems. Also, I've seen some people use this single node Kubernetes clusters, even in some cases actually in production, where they just bring a box to their shops and then they just run the Kubernetes cluster there inside a single system. So I'm sure in those cases, the CPU, however much they can save in CPU cost, is going to be good. Yeah, thank you for the update.
Yeah.
That's a very exciting fringe use case you had there, Jeremiah. And I think MyStore is going to benefit from an interrupt mode for many such, they are essentially fringe use cases. Like you said, OpenEBS is trying to address the enterprise workflow mainly, but sure, with interrupt mode, it could go to newer. It could cover newer grounds now that we have, uh, you know, not as much CPU hog as we used to.
Would I think also in the enterprise space would be a great option for non-prod clusters.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Indeed, even for development, sometimes I use the what do we call it? The developer delay, which was just asleep inside the reactor. That already helped reducing the CPU usage. But of course, it would cap the performance. So now we can just enable interrupt mode for development. And any of our test clusters, that's going to reduce power quite a bit. Maybe we could even reduce the. I think currently we have 4 CPUs as a minimum for the VMs. Could probably even reduce that, as long as we're not doing I/O, of course, for the more functional tests. Maybe reduce the end-to-end testing costs.
Yeah, great that I not only saved some 30 watts, but also was able that some others can save it.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, it's a really great change. Thank you.
Yeah, with the new developer tools on the horizon, they're not even on the horizon. They're here already, I suppose. Code is now much more accessible, and I suppose Interpret, Maestro, and I suppose AI tools, they converge, and hopefully we see more contributions like yours. More people jumping
Yeah,
in Maestro, bigger deal than we think of it as a large big thing running on large big CPUs, and now the developer at home can run it in his small box. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and full disclaimer here. So, so I used to do a lot of software engineering, but I'm a manager for a couple of years, so I'm rusty, and I've never done Rust before. But yeah, with Claude Code and Opus, it was actually I was surprised because I tried it a year ago also with Sonnet, and then it failed. This time it was really helpful. So if I would have done it without it, it would have taken me probably a week or two with what I already know. With that, it was more or less, I think the core of it was 2 evenings.
That's awesome. Although I suspect it probably could still consume a bunch of tokens.
Yeah, I have a $100 max plan, so this is sufficient.
Oh. Oh.
And that was actually
I've
the
been
trigger
also
because I was on a vacation on a beach, so I haven't spent my limit. So and I hated to go to
right.
waste, so I needed something bigger than just tuning some Home Assistant configurations.
So those tokens don't get what's the word when it gets passed on to the next month?
No, they're not carried over. They're just basically
carried
go
over.
away.
Yeah.
So on this one, I was
Yeah,
really surprised. Of course, I checked the code and not basically try to avoid to throw a lot of slop over the fence. Yeah, but I was surprised how good it works nowadays.
Yeah, no, the code was quite tidy, where previously you would generate a whole bunch of unnecessary code.
But this was a second iteration, of course. So I said basically, hey, look at the last couple commits from maintainers on style, etc., and review everything you have right now and propose a plan on how to change it to fit to the existing code base. for instance. And then basically read it 60% of it.
That's a good tip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm also starting to use it now. So that's useful.
Yeah, but it doesn't save you to truly understand what's happening under the hood when you face issues. So for instance, I broke rebuilding and I was so daring to deploy it on my cluster, and then one node got down and then I had a big issue.
Oh. Hopefully you haven't lost any data.
Of course, I have backups.
Yeah, cool.
I used to do this also running mission critical workloads. So this is my setup is enterprise grade at home.
Yeah, where backup is it's not critical, it's 100% required.
Okay. So while I have you here, so I'm not sure how the agenda typically is. I have one question.
Yeah, let's just see Naladri, do we have any other topics to go through just before we start the
I think not. I think we've covered the local PV changes, the new global Helm values, and the big one, the interrupt mode one. I don't think we have anything that we want to, put out here in the community meeting. So yeah, we have the rest of the meeting.
We have the node and pool purge. Don't know if you've already discussed that. I was a bit late, or I was having technical issues.
But we're nearing code completion on that feature. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably maybe we can bring that up once it's complete on the next one.
Yeah, I think once we release it in the code cut, we can discuss it on the next community meeting. Yeah. I'll hand it back to you, Tiago and Jeremiah.
Okay,
so go ahead, Jeremiah. Yeah.
So basically, the second issue I have in my back burner that needs fixing is I noticed some corner cases where volumes do not rebuild by themselves, and you have to hand fix them. I'm still on the reproducer. On this one, I just wanted to ask: are you aware of something like that? Because then, of course, that's really annoying. Then, for instance, you have one node fails and you replace it, and then basically the volume do not degrade themselves, so they are stuck, and then you manually have to build up a new nexus.
Right. Yes. So
I
I've
think
created a ticket for that recently. Not sure if I did it on GitHub. So probably I need to check if there's one on GitHub. But yeah, currently we only rebuild volumes which are published on a pod. So we have to change that logic so that whenever we detect that the volume health of a volume is not fully healthy, some of the replicas are offline, etc., then we'll have to come up with some mechanism of saying, okay, we've waited long enough and we're going to start rebuilding. Initially, we hadn't done it, I think, because if the volume wasn't published, we weren't sure when we should start rebuilding it or not. But it does cause some issues if a volume is created, it has data, but then for some reason the application has gone down. And in that case, if nodes are being destroyed, for example, or pools are being broken, then there's nothing that will create a nexus and trigger a rebuild.
Okay, that's good. So not a bug; it's just a missing feature then.
Yes, it's just a missing feature.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. Basically, I think this is where then it's not enterprise grade when you load a model on one of the nodes and then suddenly you realize it was too big and the node crashes horribly. And then afterwards you have a bunch of degraded volumes you have to fix.
Yes. Yes, I think we'll try and target this for 4.6. It was too late when I created it for 4.5. But so I think we could do it for 4.6. Yeah. And also, if you want to take a punt on it, that'd be great as well. Although the changes in this case would not be on this repo, it would be on the control plane.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so probably when I'm annoyed, then is when things are happening.
Yeah.
So the next time I have to rebuild them. But sadly, also Claude Code is also really good at doing this. So I just have a Maya store skill that does the operations, and I even have a trigger that when something goes south, it will propose a command to execute. I still don't trust it to do it autonomously, and then executes the command to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the insight.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Also, by the way, what did you think of the SPDKRS repo being separate to Mayastar? So just to add some context, quite a while back, I would say a few years, even the control plane was inside the Mayastar repo. And then for some reason, we decided that wouldn't it be better if all these entities like data plane and control plane had their own repo. And unfortunately, we're on the state now that it just makes modifying common API very difficult because now you have to change a whole bunch of repos. So I understand you only had to change SPDK in Mayastar, so not all the way through. So, but what was your experience with that, and would you prefer it if we have like a monorepo?
Two answers. So in the enterprise daily life, I think that's why I wasn't surprised, or anyway, because that's quite typical, because sometimes many do it at a single use case. I would expect in a single repo to be spread across over a dozen repos. Personally, I would expect this to be in a single one. Just from my, but this is, I think, also boils down to taste, because I've seen people ferociously discussing this to the point where you could call it even religion. So, and in the past, I would have been more annoyed when I have to deal with it manually. But honestly, again, Claude Code did the heavy lifting on ensuring that all the repos are in sync and the PRs fit, etc. And the pinning. And I did something I would have probably complained about really hardly if I've done it on my own.
Yes. Yeah, I think at the time, to be honest, there was a religious debate. Although then after that time, we kind of stayed with it. Well, we already did it. But now recently, and also with more people contributing, I've been thinking, well, wouldn't it be easier for new contributors if everything was tidy in a single repo? Even for us, when we have to change a dependency repo and then it's like 5 separate PRs, it's it's not fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I'll check to see if that ticket is not on the GitHub. If it's not, I'll make sure I create it. The target will probably be 4.6. 4.5, I think it's likely too late.
Okay. So will the interrupt mode make it into 4.5?
Yes, it will. I think we will add it potentially a disclaimer that it's still experimental, just because we haven't had a chance to,
Yeah.
to
I would
test
do
it
the same. Don't
properly.
do
And
this.
yeah, and add it to our end-to-end tests. So we'll expose it, tell people please use it,
Yeah.
please try it, and then maybe get some useful feedback as well.
Yeah, I also don't have the means to really hammer it, and that's what I would do before calling this GA.
Yeah. We also have to figure out how to test it with our end-to-end testing. Maybe having a separate pipeline that only runs occasionally, but that runs with interrupt mode rather than polling. Or as I said previously, maybe we always use polling from now on. Sorry, maybe we always use interrupt from now on. That could be an option as well.
So I get your performance viewpoint on this one. So let's say I have the luxury to would have InfiniBand at home, and doing the really fancy things, then I would be annoyed this taken away. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, I think this needs some more thorough testing, because I was really interesting to read the changes on Longhorn V2, because I don't know if the benchmark was broken, because I couldn't believe it. Somehow interrupt mode was faster for random IO in their case, and for sequential it was slower than polling.
That's interesting.
I've referenced it in the PR as a link. And I wasn't believing it. And by the way, wasn't able to replicate it. So for me and my setup, as well on my cluster, as well as on my Mac, interrupt mode was always slower.
Yeah, I did some very basic testing only, without using the network or anything like that, just using a Casper. And performance I could get was slightly lower, but very comparable. But without going via the network and actually using NVMe TCP, it's probably not sufficient.
Yeah, so the more lag you have, the less important or the less impact you have. So that's the good news. But
right.
I now put myself, so if I now put aside my personal hobby use case and look at real production stuff, I think the long-term thing would be like really the dynamic scheduler that switches automatically, and then on idle clusters, sticking in interrupt mode, and as soon as basically the wall of traffic hits, it switches gears.
Yes. Although the dynamic traffic one, if I remember correctly, the SPDK one also supports moving threads across cores or across their reactors. So if we enable something like that, I think probably we need to just double check all the code base, make sure we haven't done any assumptions. And I think we have done some assumptions that some SPDK thread is going to run on this reactor. And if we make it truly dynamic, then those assumptions may be completely broken now. So we'll require a bit more a bit more testing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
So great having a chat and get to know you guys.
Yeah, and you too. Thanks for sharing your use case, and thanks for your contribution. And yeah, if if you ever feel the itch again, there's we'll welcome any more contributions.
Yeah, will do whenever something breaks.
Yeah, and if you find something broken, just let us know as well. If you have issues with the pools not being able to delete them, that should be fixed soon.
So, but maybe on the other side, so on the good news so far, so it runs for I think 1.5 years almost now, and it works reliably, and yeah, and I really tinker with the stuff, and things are failing. So and I only have this annoyance that yeah, the rebuilds always work, but I've never lost data. By the way, not even on this. While I had backups, of course, I didn't have to use it, so I was able to actually
cool.
recover the volume.
No, that's great to hear. Thank you. So, by the way, would you mind adding your adding yourself as adding your, let's say, your story to the what's it called, Nilaji? We have a community page for user stories, don't we? What's it called?
It's the adopters page.
Adopters.
Yeah, it's on the community repo. I'm away from keyboard at the moment, but it's on OpenEBS community. I'll just try to type it out on chat on phone, and you could share your use case with us, Jeremiah. What that would do is other folks who walk by the OpenEBS adopters page. That's a thing which CNCF requires their projects to have. Other folks could read your use case and they would know that, okay, this person is using Maestro this way. That's
Yeah,
it.
I found it.
Yes. Oh, cool. I had pasted as well. Yeah. So up to you, of course, only if you're willing. But it'd be nice to see another adoption use case there.
Okay.
And with the
And I have a
incubation
minute.
review pending, that would also be beneficial for us, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'm wondering on this one. So so I'm using Talos Linux. What I see missing there is, so for instance, something like OpenEBS nicely being integrated without having to take care of the details. That could be something.
Talos.
So
Right.
you know Talos?
Yes, we've had a few users on Talos. And if I remember it, yes, so there's some steps or some, I can't remember now, configurations that you have to enable, isn't it?
Basically, it's without the Linux load. So basically, you just run the Kubernetes processes and have a small, again, also Kubernetes service with a control plane and an Kubernetes style API to interact with it. And that way, you don't SSH to it. You don't run commands. You don't even have something like ls on it. But you have an API to list directories. And the experience, so it's really great if you don't want to spend a lot of time on sysops. Having said that, the minute you have some more demanding use cases, so like, hey, I still want HA and I want failover and everything, then you have the standard, you have to install the Helm chart and configure everything. And yeah, doing this properly requires some things. And Talos has some, let's call it plugins. I think they have a different name. So that could be something where it out of the box can do replicated volumes. That would be nice.
Right. Would you mind creating a ticket with this request and maybe some thoughts? And then we
have
can
to
look
think about this. If this is now a feature request of OpenEBS, I think it's actually more a feature request for Talos, if I think about it.
Talos.
Yeah, for Talos itself, because of course you could contribute a Talos plugin, they would for sure accept it. But I imagine them asking the question, okay, but is OpenEBS the right thing for their primary user base?
Yes, because it would probably depend how it integrates. If there's some kind of a API already in the specification, then maybe we could integrate.
So I think if I remember correctly, so the API of the control plane is not Kubernetes style, right?
For our control plane, no, we have
Yeah.
we just have a RESTful API,
Yeah.
which is mostly not declarative.
So that would be the Talos way, where it would be a natural fit. So I have to think about it. And yeah, and on the use case, of course, I can write it down. But that's basically anyone who wants something at home where things don't go down. So you still need HA. And then I
Yeah.
think the smart home use case is a good one because when you wire your light switches with something, you don't want it to go down, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah. No.
mission critical, but it's really odd if you, hi, why can't I turn on the lights? And then, yeah, sorry, my node is in maintenance mode. You can do it tomorrow again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always the catch with the IoT devices that, yeah, it's I would say it is kind of mission critical to have a relaxed time at home that all these things work 100% of the time.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
cool.
then.
Thank you.
So I have to jump. Some final thing because I can wrap up work.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me and bye.
Bye. Anything from anyone else, folks?
Nothing from me.
No, okay.
Yeah, in fact, that's a
Okay.
good conversation. Yeah. So I think people are using it in a different ways, and then I think a lot of good inputs from the Jeremy. Thanks, Tiago, for driving this.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you on the next one.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.